What's up, beautiful people? Another day, another study. We've talked about grip strength before. I've pivoted my practice to mostly focusing on health risk assessments. So collecting a bunch of data, looking at your lifestyle, and then figuring out how do we prevent the development of chronic disease. So grip strength is one of the things that I test. I send people a dyno to test their grip strength, see where they are, because there are several things that are associated with poor grip strength. We know that recent evidence indicates that muscle strength and function may help prevent against metabolic dysfunction associated with excess body fat, and declines in muscle strength and mass are associated with higher obesity-related cardiovascular and all-cause mortality. We know that the Lancet published a consensus statement earlier this year defining obesity, adding in anthropometric measures, and also adding in preclinical, which is obesity without dysfunction, or clinical obesity. So this study was looking at grip strength, looking at progression from preclinical to clinical obesity, and they also looked at mortality risk, all-cause cardiovascular and cancer mortality risk following the UK Biobank participants for nearly 14 years. So in the fully adjusted model, each standard deviation, which was about 11.6 kilograms, to go from kilograms to pounds, you just multiply by 2.2. So each standard deviation increase in grip strength was associated with a 14% lower risk of conversion from preclinical to clinical obesity, an 8% lower risk of developing more than one obesity-related complication, and a 13% lower risk of progressing from multiple obesity-related complications to death from any cause. And then you saw as the tertiles increased that there was a risk reduction as well in each three of those breakpoints. And then we saw people with the highest grip strength had better metabolic health. They had better lipid profiles, lower inflammatory markers of CRP. And then this model also showed that the association persisted when broken down by biological sex. And when they looked at cardiovascular mortality and cancer mortality, progressing from the double dysfunction to those, there was a risk reduction by 18% for cardiovascular mortality and 9% for cancer mortality for each standard deviation increase in grip strength. And then when they measured it by other markers like MRI scans, MRI is actually the gold standard for looking at muscle mass and the muscle to rate ratio, they saw a reduction in progression through all of those three stages as well. So this is why it's really important, no matter who you are, what your body type, whatever, to do resistance training at least twice a week. The guidelines recommend 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise a week. That's really all it takes to start reaping the benefits.